On Larry King Now, the hilarious Keegan-Michael Key.
Well, the most important thing is making everybody understand that the African-American experience isn't a monolith. That certain black people will say to other black people, oh, you're not black, or you're not as black as I am. There's no such thing as black as I am.
Can you get away with things others don't?
Yeah, I think so, because I think because we're biracial, we can. He came in, of course, you know, it's one of those moments when all the crew is there, and you're going, why is everybody on the crew here? Because they want to meet Snoop.
And if he breathes, you get stoned.
You get stoned. He walks right past me, Larry, and he goes, you a bad, bad boy.
Do you fear a Trump election?
I do not. So everybody thinks that what I see on TV is what's existing in America. There's a whole middle of the spectrum of people who are sensible. All those people have not been, they've not weighed in. They won't weigh in until November. They don't weigh in because they don't make interesting news. People who solve problems are boring.
Plus,
you know, the thing about Cory Booker is he's always trying to explain something. Like somebody always caught him like, did you just step on that bug? No, I didn't step on the bug. I didn't step on the bug. That bug happened to be there. That was all timing. That just happened to happen. I mean, he's excited all the time.
All next on Larry King Now. Welcome to Larry King Now. Our special guest today is the hilarious Keegan-Michael Key, actor, writer, comedian, and one half of the comedy duo and Peabody Award-winning show Key and Peele. You also know him from Pitch Perfect 2 and Let's Be Cops, Keanu. Keegan-Michael was named one of the most influential people of 2014 by Time magazine. He stars in Don't Think Twice. It's about an improv group that begins to unravel when one of the members hits it big. Don't Think Twice started with a select run, is now in theaters nationwide. Is it true you took this role because the script made you cry?
That is exactly why. Yeah.
What made you cry?
It's going to sound very interestingly backwards, but what made me cry is the hopefulness of the script. There was actually something, it has lots of comedic elements to it, but there was this hopefulness to it. And it had everything I'd ever want in a script. It was tragic and loving and hilarious and sarcastic, but there's an effusiveness to the script that I couldn't deny. I had to do it.
It's a drama about comedians?
It's a drama about comedians. That's exactly it.
And who do you play?
I played Jack Mercer, and Jack is one of the members of the troupe, of the improv troupe. He is described by the screenwriter as stealthily ambitious. So he's the one guy who's really got his eye on the brass ring. And is he the one who makes it? He's the one who makes it, yes. He's the one who makes it, yeah.
We have a clip and we'll toss to it right now. This is Don't Think Twice.
I'm glad you're keeping score.
It's the only live sporting event of comedy.
But comedy isn't a sport.
I mean, they got Gary Cho, and then it's like, who else? Even if it wasn't me, there should be somebody else on this show
I think
that represents another.
Different shades of white, certainly.
Yes, there's definitely. They've got eggshell, acro, to off-white, to almost ochre.
I enjoy ochre performers.
Yeah. It was good when I was little.
Right. You never know if it was good when you were little or you were just little so you didn't know. It's the great paradox of Weekend Live is, was it good ever? Or did we just think so because we were 12?
You should not have said that in your audition. I think that's
I brought that up in my interview.
Looked like you were having a lot of fun.
We were having a lot of fun.
A comedian directed it, right?
Mike Birbiglia, who is just about the most amazing person ever. I think he's a storyteller. He's a guy that derives a lot of material for his projects out of biography, out of himself. And I find that the work that he does is it's full of heart. He's not snarky, and he really loves the subject matter that he writes about. So his first movie, Sleepwalk with Me, was very autobiographical. It was his life, being on the road as a stand-up comedian who also suffers from narcolepsy. And in this movie's a companion piece, but he's not as much a part of this world. This world is pretty much this is my autobiography. I told him when we were talking on the phone, we'd Skyped with each other, and I said, Mike, I don't understand what's happening here. You've written a movie about my life, and we've never met. so please stop stalking me. I'll do the movie. Please stop stalking me.
Do you like doing indies?
I love doing indies. I love doing indies. I think you get to stretch more. You get to do a little bit more, and whatever the theme of I like it when there's only one cook in the kitchen. I'm more than happy to be a chef's assistant, but I like it when there's one cook in the kitchen, and there's just one cook in this kitchen, and it's Mike, and he does everything. And there was just a nice, streamlined direction to the movie, both emotionally, textually, everything everybody was working toward the same thing. Everyone knew what they were working toward. And I think that you get that in indies more than sometimes you get in studio movies.
Have you ever lost another comedian due to his success?
Well, I lost Jordan. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I haven't seen Jordan in 6 months. No, I remember when I first got to the Second City in Chicago, I was doing a show with Jack McBrayer, who was on 30 Rock for all those seasons. And Jack left, and that was my first taste. Well, actually, I'm sorry, that was my second taste. My first taste was when I was at the Second City in Detroit. So I started at my hometown in Detroit. We had a Second City there. And Bob Saget came to see a show. He was in Detroit for a charity event. He came to see the show, and my very best friend in the whole world, he and one of our other colleagues, they kind of just got snatched up because Bob Saget said, "Oh gosh, you guys are fantastic. I'm going to send my agents to come see you next week." So he sent his agents. They came the next week, and they took our two friends, and they were gone. And all of a sudden, here we are in Detroit, and they were off to Hollywood, and one of them's had a very successful career. Yeah.
You're best known, of course, for Key and Peele. How did the relationship with Jordan Peele come about?
Jordan and I met in Chicago in 2002, and we were introduced to each other by a mutual friend. And she said, "Look, you guys are both from single-parent homes. You're both biracial. You're both sketch comedians. I think that you guys would have a lot in common, even more than what I've mentioned, and that you should meet and talk to each other." And so he happened to be in town performing, and
stand-up?
No, doing improv. He was working at an improv theater in Amsterdam, in the Netherlands, an English-speaking improv theater, like you do. And so he came to the States, and one of our casts from the Second City had gone to Holland. So we had a perfect opportunity to meet, and one night we went out to a diner in Chicago, and with a bunch of friends, and we stayed out till about 5 o'clock in the morning. And I remember I went home, and I told my wife at the time, I said, "Honey, I'm in love. I'm in comedy love. You're okay. We're okay." But and she said, "Who is it?" And I told her about Jordan. Serendipitously, we ended up on Mad TV together a year later. We had no idea. That was not the plan. I was perfect. I was perfectly fine being in Chicago. But they, in a manner of speaking, set us up against each other. We were competing for the same job. And then my partner, who is as sly as a fox, said, "Why don't we write all of our scenes together so they can't fire either of us? And we'll just we'll work as a duo as we're writing."
So you had chemistry with him?
Very much so. Very much so. Oh, yeah.
You play a lot of memorable characters on the show, right? I mean, it's been nominated for 12 Emmys. You and Jordan continue to collaborate. You have 2 movies in the works.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We've got a substitute teacher movie that we're working on right now that's in development. And we're also in the midst of rebooting the Police Academy series, which is which is going to be.
There was 8 of those.
Yeah, right? There are like 8 of them, and so and Paul Maslansky, who came up with the Police Academy series, he's been very, very involved with us, and he's our spirit animal, and so we're trying to figure out, especially in this climate, in this day and age, what's the best way of making this. I mean, how do we put our best foot forward?
Is Steve Greenberg still around?
He's around. Gutenberg's around. Gutenberg's around.
Gutenberg's
around. There've been some peripheral communication.
But they were all funny.
Everybody was great. Tim Kazurinsky is a friend of mine. He was one of my favorites. And Bubba Smith and all those guys, yeah.
Our guest is Keegan-Michael Key. We're talking politics and this wild election right after the break. Stay with us. The movie is Don't Think Twice. We'll return right away. Emily Nussbaum, the terrific writer for The New Yorker, wrote about Key and Peele, said Keegan-Michael Key and Jordan Peele play Indian guys, Latino guys, white guys, biracial guys, but Key and Peele's true passion is intra-black male drag with scenes that explore the many ways that African-American men perform themselves. They do boopies, nerds, suits, and black Republicans. It's the show's greatest strength, making specific the men the culture treats as indistinguishable. I must have felt pretty good about that.
Yeah, I love Nussbaum too. I'll take that from her.
It's a comedy show, but you're saying something deeper on it, right?
Yeah, I mean, for us it was, originally, we just wanted to make the show as unique as we could. We wanted to make sure that all we were doing was doing comedy that made us laugh. And in turn, what ended up happening was that there's this weird voice, this interesting voice that people had not heard before. And subsequently, I kept on thinking about it, and I thought, well, the most important thing is making everybody understand that the African-American experience isn't a monolith. That certain black people will say to other black people, "Oh, you're not black," or "You're not as black as I am." There's no such thing as black as I am. What it means is you're culturally different than I am. And so for us, it's always, that was breaking the cipher. It was finally being able to say, okay, well, let's portray this kind of African-American, that kind of, yeah.
Can you get away with things others don't?
Yeah, I think so. Because we're biracial, we can. I think we're like referees. We're looking at the best way to examine any part of society. Because we've always been looking at it that way when we were younger.
Black Lives Matter drew out of things like Alton Sterling and Philando Castile. What do you feel when you hear those stories?
You know,
They drive me berserk.
It makes me crazy that nobody's communicating. And that I'm hearing more and more now about these programs that are happening in certain cities, Dallas in particular, where there are cities where you're having community meetings and you're having town halls with police officers and members of the community. I think that's the only way to solve anything, because the problem is clearly systemic. But the problem isn't even racism as much as it's ignorance. It's the fact that as a citizen, I don't understand exactly what a police officer goes through. And as a police officer, they don't understand exactly what I'm going through. And if there's any way that we can interface or have it happen, that should be a matter of course, I think, in society, that we should sit down frequently and have people talk to each other about, well, when you do this, I feel that way. Or that could be a trigger for this kind of stressor for me. But instead what we do is we yell at each other, and one of us has a gun and the other one doesn't. So that cooler heads don't seem to be prevailing in our society right now, where there was a lot of kind of discourse and people used to take a breath before they spoke. And it doesn't happen anymore.
You recently played the only black delegate at the RNC in a bit with Stephen Colbert. Yeah. What does that say about the state of this whole election?
I think what we're dealing with is people keep saying there's an America that let's take America back, let's get America back at the RNC. I miss my America.
What is that?
Well, to me, it's the Stone Age, is what it is to me. The America that used to exist can't and never will. If you try to wrest that back into existence, it's not going to work because history's against you. The browning of America is never going to stop. It's not going to stop. In fact, in regard to our show, some people ask me sometimes, what's the greatest thing that could happen to your show? I said, the greatest thing that could happen to my show is that a kid watches something on whatever the equivalent of YouTube is 75 years from now and goes, why is this funny? I don't understand this. The greatest thing that's happened in the last 5 years is me watching this Cheerios commercial with the interracial couple, and then people watched these children, they interviewed children and said, so is there anything weird about the commercial? And all the kids said, well, the daddy's taking a nap, and it's like, shouldn't he be at work? They never comment on the fact that the dad's black and the mom's white. They don't care. They don't understand that. They don't comprehend it.
And that's so fast, that change.
That fast. So if that's not going to stop happening. In fact, it's going to keep happening exponentially. There's more interracial relationships, more mixed children, and we're looking at the world from a different perspective. They can't. There are issues that are in Congress right now that people are screaming and railing about. They're 50-year-old issues. They're RFK, JFK issues. This is the 21st century. Yeah.
More than 100 celebrities have launched a campaign to stop Trump. It's called United Against Hate. Bryan Cranston, who was just here, Jane Fonda are among them. You going to join?
I'll join. You can talk to me. I'll join. What's it called? What's it called, man?
United Against
Hate. I love it. I'm in there. I'm your guy. Bryan, Jane, I'm in. Tell me where to sign in.
Do you fear a Trump election?
I do not. I really do not, because I think what happens is the way that we make the news work, you could speak to this more than I can, it seems the way we make the news work is we cut out the boring, but the boring is necessary. And we just go to the extremes, and that's what we put on the news. So everybody thinks that what I see on TV is what's existing in America. There's a whole middle of the spectrum of people who are sensible, who care about their children, who want there to be fiscal stability. All those people have not they've not weighed in. They won't weigh in until November. They don't weigh in because they don't make interesting news. People who solve problems are boring. They don't make interesting news. People who rail and scream, that's going to sell advertising.
Coming up, we're going to talk secret talents and perks of fame with Keegan-Michael Key. Stay with us. My guest is Keegan-Michael Key. He's quite a guy, and he's in the new movie Don't Think Twice. In fact, he's the protagonist.
Some would say I'm the antagonist. I get depending on who you're talking to, right? Yeah.
He succeeds. So
yeah,
I don't like him.
Like him.
Anyway,
yeah.
You grew up in Detroit.
I did.
Did you always have Big aspirations in a tough town?
As a little kid, I didn't, but because of my parents, they were like, you know, all I wanted to be was Lynn Swan. That was the only thing I ever wanted to be my whole life was Lynn Swan.
You had a black father and a white
Black
mother?
father, white mother. I was adopted. I was adopted by a interracial couple.
Were you born of an interracial?
I was born interracial and adopted by a couple of the exact same demographic.
Did that have to be that way, or that just
It didn't. It didn't. It's interesting. It's interesting. My parents went to the adoption agency and they said, "We're looking for a hard-to-place child." So then you go down the row of the kids, and it's like kid with one arm, blind kid, kid with Down syndrome, interracial kid. That's like, it was like, we'll take that. I was a hard-to-place kid.
Did you ever meet your real parents?
I know my mother. I know my mother, and my mother and I have a relationship. Yeah, but I've never met my father. Yeah.
Obama's the product of black father, white mother.
So is Jordan, my partner, and we've always said we wouldn't have a show if it wasn't for Obama. Obama opened up a new dialogue. People went, "Oh, those kind of people exist in the world?" I'm like, "Yeah, there's like millions of us. There's millions of us."
You met your mother in your 20s. What was that like?
It was revelatory, but it was also very, I guess I was at the airport, I remember in Texas, because she lived in Fort Worth, Texas at the time. She still does. And I thought there was going to be like some ticker tape parade and Oprah was going to appear, you know. But it wasn't. Everybody else was just living their lives. So it was just between us. And a lot of questions were solved from the very, very beginning of my life. Because what do you do, Larry? You build a story about what your life is. Most people can fill in that story. Your parents tell you there's photographs, there's videotapes, there's whatever. Right. You have a heritage. I didn't have that heritage. And then when I met her, she filled it all in for me.
What's the key? Were you a funny kid, by the way?
I was a funny kid. I was a kid who wanted a lot of attention. But and so I did whatever I could to get the attention.
What makes someone good at improv? You might not be a good stand-up, but be good improv. How do you explain that?
The way you explain it is this. Improvisation is about listening, and it's about investing completely in the last thing that happened. The mistake is everybody thinks improv is that you're quick and you're thinking out here. I'm not thinking out here, thinking back here. What's the last thing that happened? I'm simply going to retort about the last thing that took place. Stand-ups do improv when they're writing with themselves. They go, well, that would be this, so I'm going to make this point. So anybody can learn the rules of improvisation. You have to say yes, and you have to then add on to what the other person said. Yes, and then you say something, Larry, and you go, yes, and this, you know, yeah, here's a pen, yes, and look, there's an inscription on it. Yes, and oh, it's empty, we should need to put a new cartridge in. Oh, I happen to have a whole stack of cartridges here. Was that blue ink or black ink? And you know what I mean? You know? And so that's the big difference. Anybody can improvise. Is everybody funny? That's the thing. That's the difference.
We play a little game of If You Only Knew.
Yes.
Who was your childhood celebrity crush?
My childhood celebrity crush, when I was a little kid, or when I was in my formative years, Raquel Welch. Used to be on Variety. Yes, I'm older than you think, everybody. I'm older than you think.
Not a bad. Guilty pleasure.
Chili cheese fries. It's a thing we eat in Detroit.
If you could choose any comedic collaborator other than Jordan Peele, who would it be?
Right at this moment, I would really love to collaborate with Zach Galifianakis.
You did an impression of me, right?
I did, in a Key and Peele sketch.
Yeah.
Yes.
Did you try to capture the voice, too?
I was trying to capture it a little bit, but I wasn't getting enough of the gruff. I was a little too...
What's a secret talent you have?
I am a hurdler. I ran the 110 high hurdles in high school. Yeah.
Something you are afraid of?
Afraid of people not liking me.
Really?
I'm desperately afraid of people not liking me. Doesn't help. Not helpful.
Best perk of being a celebrity?
It's getting that table when you don't have a reservation. You know what I'm talking about, Larry.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about.
I know. What never fails to make you laugh?
I'm old school. A pratfall. A pratfall. I was watching a movie last night. I was watching a great movie last night and called The Whole Nine Yards. Old movie. With Bruce Willis and Matt Perry. Matt Perry.
Hysterical. Man, he hits the window and he went...
That's exactly it. That's the thing. And then he bumps off a Michael Clark Duncan and falls behind the car. Love it. Love it.
Like Mel Brooks says, the difference between funny and tragedy is... Funny is if you fall down a manhole. Tragedy is if I cut my finger.
If I can.
What are you awful at?
What am I awful at? Organization. Horribly unorganized.
What do you think we should be paying more attention to?
Educating our kids, I'm a big Richard Dreyfuss fan, educating our kids about civics.
You're not kidding. Dreyfus was here many times, too.
Educating our kids about civics.
Strangest fan encounter.
It happened actually the other day. I was doing a voiceover for a cartoon, and the engineer was like, "I'm a big fan. I really like your work. Now, when you came here last, here's the example of what you did." And then he played back the thing, and I'm like, "That's not my voice. That's not my voice." He's like, "That's not you?" "Nope, that's not me." And I was like, "How big a fan are you?" I was like,
Let's find that guy.
Let's find that guy, right, yeah.
Is there something you long believed to be true and then realized wasn't?
Yes, when I found my biological mother, I realized that she initially had no intention of giving me up for adoption.
Wow.
I always thought, I'm worthless. Why would you give a baby away? And then I met her and she went, I had no intention of giving you away, and then circumstances took place.
And what's something people don't know about you?
Gosh, I guess I have a lot to say. I think I'm probably a little more, I'm a little darker than everybody thinks I am. Everybody, like this is Keegan, a little bit darker than people.
Jekyll Hyde?
A little bit, maybe a little bit Jekyll Hyde. You ask Jordan Peele. No.
In our final segment, Keegan-Michael Key will talk about my man Snoop Dogg, and he'll answer some of your questions. We'll be right back. Keegan-Michael Key's our guest. The new movie is Don't Think Twice. You did a scene with my friend Snoop Dogg in Pitch Perfect 2.
Yeah.
What's he like to work with?
Lovely. Absolutely, just lovely. And he walked past, he came in, of course, it's one of those moments when all the crew is there, and you're going, why is everybody on the crew here? Because they want to meet Snoop.
And if he breathes, you get stoned.
You get stoned. He walks right past me, Larry, and he goes, "You a bad, bad boy." He just walked right past like this.
Nick Cannon was here. He told me that the worlds of comedy and hip-hop are now intertwined.
Mm-hmm.
You agree?
I do agree. Grass is always greener. I think it's just part of the human condition. So you're in one piece of art, and you want to do another piece of art. So you see that, it looks like magic to you. And so you go, I want to do that thing. And a lot of comedians also feel, I want to do that thing.
You're going to do a movie with a recent guest, Bryan Cranston.
Yes.
One of the great actors of our time. He has both dramatic and comedy chops. The
amazing.
movie is Why Him with James Franco. What's it about?
It's about a self-made millionaire and his girlfriend, and the fact that her family is from the Midwest and she's not going to come home for Christmas. She wants to invite her family to meet the love of her life, who is this socially awkward billionaire. So Bryan Cranston and Megan Mullally and their son, they all live in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and they fly out to California to spend Christmas in this enormous mansion. And James Franco plays the eccentric billionaire. And then most of the movie is how the billionaire and the father are at loggerheads.
Who are you?
I play the estate manager and the life coach and the head cook and the martial arts instructor and the all-around best friend to the billionaire, to James Franco.
This is funny?
Very funny. John Hamburg, the wonderful John Hamburg, fantastic director. He's great.
Have you shot scenes with Cranston?
Oh, yeah, we're done. Yeah, I shot a scene with Cranston. We laughed so hard. We had a 46-minute take, Larry. A 46-minute take. There's only 3 usable minutes in it. Because we couldn't stop laughing. He's hilarious.
Have your goals changed?
Yeah, my goals have changed a little bit. I feel like I'm in a place in my life now where easy to say because there's been a certain amount of success, but if I'm right here for the rest of my life, I'd be really good. I just want to pick projects that I'm passionate about and not get super concerned about money. And I feel like the thing that's going to fulfill you or make you feel success is if you are being honest with yourself. I don't really want to do that. I really want to this. Oh, there's this thing. And I feel like I'm moving more toward that as opposed to doing things for other people, doing things for myself. Doing things that help me, that fulfill me psychologically, emotionally, as opposed to, oh, I better do this for this person or they won't like me. Or I better do this for that person or they'll think bad of me. The more that starts to fall away, I think the happier and lighter I feel.
Some social media questions. At Viber Lacey on Twitter, what are your thoughts on the Mad TV reboot and the new cast members? I
have my fingers crossed for the new cast members. I hope everything goes well. You know, putting a television show together is such a risky endeavor. And even something that's a reboot or we were familiar with before, I think they run the risk of going, oh, it wasn't like it used to be. So I hope that the executive producers and the staff really write to the new actors and really give them as much of an opportunity as they possibly can to shine, so that we can see what they have to offer the world comedically. That's my big wish for the cast members. I wish them nothing but the best.
M. Rosamond wants to ask if you can do a Cory Booker impression.
You know, the thing about Cory Booker is, I'm working on it. It's just got to have really big eyes. And then there's something about the way he's speaking that sometimes sounds like there's something stuck inside of his mouth, but he's trying to get it out. Like he's talking and there's a grapefruit kind of stuck in there a little bit, but he's also saying, in everything he says, he's always saying, do you know what I mean? There's a feeling of, do you know what I mean, guys? Do you know what I mean? And when he became the mayor of Newark, I remember in that documentary about him, remember Street Fight? He was just like, no, oh no. No, I never meant, no, I feel like he's always trying to explain something. Like somebody always caught him like, did you just step on that bug? No, I didn't step on the bug. I didn't step on the bug. That bug happened to be there. That was all timing. That just happened to happen. I mean, he's excited all the time. All the time. I can't even imagine being in a cabinet meeting with him. So,
what a vice president choice he would have been. He would have stole the show.
He would have stole the show. I think, and there's something about Tim Kaine I like that's very kind of, I'm going to work on Tim. I'm going to watch Tim tonight so I can get more of a sensitivity. There's a real nice,
he's a very nice, I know him a long time. He's just sweet.
Seems like a lovely, sweet guy, yeah.
3 Oranges wants to know about your time hosting The Planet's Funniest Animals.
That's the first show I did. I was doing it while I was doing Mad TV, and I really, really enjoyed it. It was the first time I felt I got seduced by a teleprompter. I went, what? All the words are right there? And you're going to pay me? I just have to read the words? And I was like, this is the greatest job in the world. This is the greatest job.
You're the best.
Thank you, Larry. I appreciate it.
Thanks to my guest, Keegan-Michael Key. And Don't Think Twice is in theaters now. And as always, you can find me on Twitter at King's Things. I'll see you next time.